Having judgments isn't a bad thing. It's a human thing. Whether you believe it or not, we all judge. And having judgments doesn't mean that we're bad people. What matters is what we do with those judgments that we have. Tune into this episode and learn why we have judgments, why judgments are really just our perceptions, and 3 tips to help you navigate your judgments in a way that supports and accelerates your growth. If you dig this podcast, stay in the loop by being part of my email community. Sign up today at www.rubyfremon.com/subscribe. Now, whether you're new to the podcast or you're a loyal podcast listener, please take a moment to download a few episodes and drop a rating and review on iTunes. Now, it is time to learn more about our judgy behavior. Hey, thought leaders, and welcome to the first solo episode of 2020. Ooh, we are in a new decade. How cool is that? And still, no flying cars yet, but I'm sure that's coming. So today's episode was supposed to be on something totally different. However, I was inspired to talk about this topic. And I want to share with you what inspired that first. So I woke up this morning at 4:20 to get to the gym for my 5 a.m. training session. And I was waiting in my car, waiting for the gym to open. And I had seen that my dear friend Selena Sue had left me a few voice notes. And so I listened to the voice notes, and she was sharing her thoughts on a post that I shared yesterday. And her voice notes were really loving and super raw and honest. And this is why I love, love, love and value our friendship. And she was just sharing with me how it made her feel, how it left her feeling. Now, in the post that I shared, I talk about self-conscious leadership versus real leadership, and how we are now entering an era where we need to redefine leadership. Like, we need to redefine what it means to be a leader, because the old paradigm of leadership is no longer real. Like, that doesn't resonate anymore. What resonates is authenticity. And being real, and people being able to relate to you. And in that post, I talk about purchased followers. And look, I get it. Optics is a thing. Optics are real, and it can be really easy for us to perceive someone's success based upon the number of followers they have. And maybe you're basing your success upon the number of followers you have. Or maybe you found yourself selecting a coach to work with based upon the number of followers they have, or, as someone to network with based upon the number of followers they have. Like, the optics of followers is real, and it's very ego driven. And things are shifting. The paradigm is shifting. And anyways, in the voice note, we were just chatting back and forth about how there's a lot of people in our industry who have purchased followers at some point in time. And trust me, I know, right? I know. And I've done a lot of ego driven things for my business in the past as well. And the truth is, and what Selena and I were talking about, is that really ultimately at the end of the day, we're all on a journey of discovery, of discovering ourselves on this journey of entrepreneurship, of leadership. The more we dive into this, the more we learn more about ourselves and what to do, what not to do. And so there are times when we're going to dive into the self-conscious leadership only to learn what not to do, right? Only to learn what doesn't feel aligned, what doesn't feel good. Now, she had shared that she had felt from some of the tone of what I wrote that perhaps I could be judging her or other people. And I love that she shared this with me because it helped me see what other people see. Yes, I'm punchy as fuck. You know this, you listen to me, you get it. You know, you're here because most likely you love the tough love. And that's just my delivery. I don't know how to do it any other way. And if I ever try and find myself just fluffing things up and being really nice and soft, like that doesn't feel like me. I am tough love and I get that I'm not for everyone. And it was enlightening to hear her, someone that I highly, highly respect. Like she's not just a friend, she is someone that I really fucking respect and admire and look up to say that it can feel like I'm judging. And I realized, you know, I immediately said to her, oh, I don't judge. Who am I to judge? You know, I'm not a judgmental person. I don't judge. I have a history. Like I wouldn't be where I am if I were judging. And at the same time, as soon as those words left my mouth, I was driving home from the gym and I was thinking about it. I was like, wait a second. Is it that I really don't judge? Or is it that I am not interacting with my judgments the way I used to in the past? And that got me thinking about this whole new insight that no matter where we're at in our journeys, right? No matter how far along we are in our personal and spiritual development, we all still judge. We do, because we're human beings. And this for me, like today, has been such an eye-opening and powerful insight that I felt called to share it on social media in an Instagram post. And I felt super called to dive deeper into it by recording an episode, because quite often when I record episodes, I'm able to like really integrate and dissect things and learn more about it. So part of it is to share the insight with you, and part of it is for part of the reason why I'm recording this is for me to dive deeper into this insight. So bear with me, because I am really just starting to grasp this. So if we talk about what judgments actually are, judgments are actually perceptions, right? Our judgments are our perceptions. So if we talk about our unconscious mind, so that's the 95% of our brain that we don't use, but is constantly working in the background. This is the part of the brain that influences and um, impacts all your actions, your words, your thoughts. Okay, but it's not the part that you're consciously choosing to use. So our unconscious minds, the 95% of our brain, this unconscious mind, what it does your entire life is it collects memories. It collects memories of experiences, of traumas, of wounds, of people, of your feelings that are triggered when something happens. You know, so if, for example, you have a memory of someone bullying you in school and it created a you know a sadness within you to be made fun of, then your brain is going to remember that sadness, and it's going to remember, well, you feel sad when someone says something like this. So we capture, our subconscious mind is always capturing these memories. And where you're at now, when you look at something or someone through the lens of your eye, you see, let's take the example of a person. You see this person in front of you through the lens of your eye, and that image reflects from the lens of your eye back into your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is now trying to make sense of what it's seeing so it can tell you what this image is. Okay, and how it makes sense of what you're seeing is by taking all these different memories that you have and painting a picture. And so your subconscious mind is filled with these memories of past experiences, which are going to influence your thoughts, which influences how you perceive things, including people. So of course we're going to judge. It's built in our system to judge. We just happen to call these things judgments when they're really perceptions. And each of us has a different perception. So you could put something in the middle of the room. Say we have like 10 people in a room, and you place a bar stool in the middle of the room, and the bar stool is black. It's a black painted bar stool, super simple. In the middle of the room, 10 people in the room. Every single one of these people is going to have a different perception of that bar stool, even though it's just this simple fucking stool. We're all going to have a different perception of what we see. Someone may look at it and be like, oh, that's a black painted bar stool. Someone else may look at it and be like, oh, that looks like one of those bar stools I sat at when I was at so-and-so club. Another person may look at that and be like, that looks really like an uncomfortable bar stool. Someone may look at it and say like, oh, that looks like a high chair. Like, we're all going to have different perceptions. Now, when it comes to seeing other people, these perceptions often come off as judgments, because then we take that perception and we make it mean something about that person. So the truth is, no matter where you're at in your journey, we all judge. Okay. And this is coming from the girl who literally just said this morning, no, I don't judge. Like, who am I to judge? Fuck that. Who are you to judge? You're a fucking human being. So you judge. Okay. What matters is what you do with those judgments, right? So quite often when our subconscious mind is communicating with us, we just run on autopilot, right? Like if we feel fear, we will turn the other way. If, something pops up that causes a sense of resistance, we'll just back off. If we feel a judgment, we'll act on it. And there's a different way. There's a totally different way to work with these judgments. So the way that I see it is one, you can react. Okay. You can react from that place of judgment, letting your judgment dictate your actions, your thoughts, your words. And when you do this, it creates an external reaction. And if it involves another person, if the judgment is about another person, then you're going to act from that place of judgment, from that place of your own internal perception of this person, of their actions, of their presence, of their image, whatever it is. And that can often be ugly, right? That can often not be the truth. That can often be you acting from something within you that's triggering you. The other way is you can judge yourself for having judgments. And this is where I found myself last year before I went to Peru. Like, I started to see all the ways in which I was judging people, and I hated it. I hated myself for making these judgments. I remember like having these conversations with myself saying like, wow, like I'm this supposed transformational leader, and here I am having judgments about people. Like, what the fuck does this say about me? And I would go on, just terrorizing myself for having these judgments. And when you judge yourself for having judgments, that only makes you feel shitty about yourself. Okay. So you don't win. Right. And then that's getting yourself into this negative space that doesn't allow you to grow from your judgments. It does nothing. It actually causes you to either stay exactly where you're at or retract and move backwards. And so I remember I found myself in that place. And when I went to Peru, one of my intentions was to like really grow compassion for others so that I wouldn't have these judgments. And what Peru actually did was put me further into the state of the observer in my life, which leads us to the third way that you can navigate judgments, which is you can observe your judgment without judgment and then consciously choose your reaction. And that's where I find myself today. Is I can see all the ways in which I judge people. Trust me, it's really fucking loud sometimes. I can see the way in which I judge my family members, in which I judge people I see online or people I meet in person. And I can shift into the role of observer in that moment. And when you shift into the role of observer and actually just observe your judgment without judgment, okay? So observe what you're thinking and feeling and the actual judgment. That's when you start to uncover all the things that you have yet to heal within yourself. Okay. It becomes then an opportunity for you to get curious about yourself by asking, I wonder why I'm feeling or experiencing this judgment. I wonder why. And I tell you, when I ask myself that question, when a judgment comes up, holy shit, does it take me to another level of my growth? I mean, if say I see someone and on Instagram, and maybe I'm judging them for their success, right? Maybe it's a post about success, and maybe you've experienced this before, and you judge them on their success, like, oh, they must. What's a good judgment? Let's use the following one actually. Oh, you must have bought a bunch of followers to get to where you're at. Okay, now all of a sudden you have this judgment, but what are you making that judgment mean about the person? So if you're saying, oh, you bought all these followers to get to where you're at, well, what you're making it mean about the person is that they're inauthentic. They're not good people, right? Then you're saying they're not a good person. I don't trust you. That's when you have an opportunity to say, I wonder why I'm having this judgment. And so when you start to dive into that, why am I judging this person? Oh, because that's not something I do. And yet I wish I had that many followers. Or maybe it's because your number one value is integrity. And for me, that's my number one value. And so when I see something that could possibly be a situation of someone acting out of integrity, my brain will automatically go into judgment mode because that's something that is triggering to me. So by asking myself why, I'm able to dive back into, oh, here's something here's an opportunity for me to grow, for me to evolve. And through that, you actually start to develop more compassion for the person that you're judging. It's really powerful. And this works so powerfully for family members too, especially like if you're in the personal growth field. You've been on your journey, you can look at other family members who are stuck in their shit, and it's so easy to be like, fuck, why don't they see, like, wow, why can't they see that this person's not good for them? Or why can't they see that they're just perpetuating their pain? Like, why can't they see it? Well, it's because they're on their own fucking journey and they're not where you're at just yet. And yet we judge them for it. And so by asking yourself, oh, why is this judgment coming up? Why am I judging, my sister so strongly about where she's at in her life? Why am I judging her? Oh, it's because honestly, I just really love her. And I want to see her have a better life. And then you start to have that dialogue with yourself. And maybe you go back into your timeline and say, well, here's what it took for me. And it really took me coming to that conclusion for myself. And I got myself here. So if I can trust that I got myself here, maybe I can trust her to get there. So you see, like, that's just an example of how you can have these internal conversations with yourself about your judgments to uncover what's actually truly happening. Okay. Because the judgments are automated. They're just being dished out. But it's what you do with that judgment that matters. It's how you choose to proceed. And like I said, you can either react from that place of judgment and let your judgment dictate your actions, your thoughts, your words. You can judge yourself for having the judgment, which is going to make you feel pretty fucking shitty about yourself. Or you can observe your judgment without judgment and offer yourself an opportunity to grow, to evolve, to transform, to heal, really. Because judgments are really just perceptions. There are perceptions of other people, of things, of experiences that are pieced together by the memories in our subconscious mind. That's all this is. So with that, I want to offer you 3 tips to really help you navigate your judgments. Because this isn't, there's, I'm just going to say it. There's like a lot of people out there in the spiritual industry, the spiritual development, personal development industry, who say that we need to become judgment free. We need to have a judgment detox. And quite frankly, like, that's just not possible. But what is possible is to slip into the observer and become the observer in your life, to observe your actions, to observe your thoughts, and to then consciously choose how to navigate through that. And that's what I encourage you to do with your judgments. Don't judge yourself for having judgments. We're fucking human. Like, it doesn't make you a worse coach, teacher, expert, leader, because you have judgments. It makes you actually more human, right? It makes you more human to admit, to acknowledge that judgment. So 3 tips to help you navigate your judgments. Number 1, own the fucking fact that you judge. This is the first step. If you're not willing to own the fact that you judge, then you're just keeping yourself stuck exactly where you're at. We can all be a little judgy at times, right? We can be a lot judgy at times. I know I can be super fucking judgy at times. But it's what we do with those judgments that matter. So own the fact that you can be a little judgmental at times, because the more that you deny it, the more you're going to react from that place and stunt your growth. Number 2 is train yourself to step into the observer role in your life. Train yourself to observe yourself in those states of judgments without judgment. Train yourself to ask why. I wonder why I'm having this judgment right now. Train yourself to do that, because that's where you experience the greatest opportunity for growth. And then 3, just give yourself permission to be a human being. Like, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm pretty sure you're on the path to becoming a thought leader, or you are a thought leader. And we are thought leaders, yes, but we are human first, right? No matter what you are, an expert, a teacher, a podcast host, a coach, a leader, a transformational leader, whatever it is that you call yourself, the first thing that you are, above all else, is a human fucking being. So give yourself permission to be a human being, on this journey of life, where we judge each other based on our perceptions, based on our memories and our experiences in this lifetime. We do. But it's what we do with those judgments that counts. So if you are really looking to dive deeper within yourself, slip on the observer hat. Dive into yourself. Ask yourself why you're having these judgments. And uncover the shit within you that you still have yet to face or heal. Then and only then will you be able to show up more compassionately with and for other people. This is a journey that I am on. This is a journey that I encourage all of you to be on. And it's so fucking liberating, this insight that we all judge. Like, we all fucking judge. I dare you to try and go a week without having a single judgment about a single fucking thing, right? I dare you to try and do that. But I encourage you to own your judgments, to observe yourself in that judgmental state, and to dive beneath the surface of those judgments to get to know what is actually triggering those judgments to arise. So test that out and then hit me up on social media. I want to know how it goes. I want to know how this insight lands on you. I want to know your experience with judgments. I want to know how it goes when you try out these tips. So hit me up on social media at I am Ruby. My favorite place to hang out is Instagram and Twitter. I am also on Facebook. I just don't frequent there as much. And if you send me a DM in there, chances are I may not get back to you for at least a week, because there's a lot of creepy people on Facebook. So Instagram, Twitter, hit me up. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Today's Thought Leader, where I am challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. Do me a favor, okay? Like, seriously, do me this solid. I know I say this in every single fucking episode, but like, have you really done it? Have you? Do me a favor and download a few episodes, okay? I'll give you a number to make it easy. Download 3 episodes of my podcast. Doesn't matter what episodes, just download 3 episodes, and then drop a rating and a review. on iTunes. Please and thank you. Okay, that would help me out. I would love, love, love to get more ears and eyes on this podcast so we can grow this movement together. And the ratings and the reviews and the downloads all help. So do that. And then if you dig the podcast and you see yourself as a rising thought leader, come into my email community. Sign up today at rubyfremon.com/subscribe. And when you sign up, expect to see emails from me every single week. Yes, there will be times when I invite you into something that I am offering. And there's going to be a lot of times when I'm just dropping some fucking wisdom and some love punches your way. So go there, subscribe. And again, if you have any questions or you want to share your insights with me, hit me up on social media at I am Ruby. Now, make sure you check back on Monday for a new episode of Today's Thought Leader featuring my soul sister and fellow entrepreneurial leader, Amanda Bucci. This episode, I promise, will definitely change the ways in which you view and use social media. So be sure to tune in. Thank you, thought leaders, and I will see you here next Monday.